And what percentage of the troops over there were also other National Guard units? Huge.
Even today, I mean, NPR ran an article earlier this week about how the Iowa National Guard is doing training at University of Iowa to do soil samples so they can help these individuals learn how to farm on their farmland. Well, they've been farming there for centuries.
Yeah.
Like, really? Like, that's what you think you're going to go over there and do? And there's this very paternalistic conception of what it means for us to go over there and help. And you know, there are two different forms of help. There's the Afghan-led work, and then there's our provincial reconstruction teams that go in and basically say, we're going to build a school for you. All right, this is what we need to do. And I mean, there's been videos and documentation of this, but I mean, I just remember doing this in Iraq. It's like, it's very paternalistic. You're not, because of the fear factor, because you're there, you got your flak vest on, you got your weapon there. There's this hostility that exists there. There's a tension there. There's a.
It's not like you're in a t-shirt and jeans putting brick on top of brick.
Exactly. There's a violence there it may be unspoken, but there's violence there already.
Sure.
And you go into that space, and because of that, there's tension and aggression that brought on these people that they're just trying to build their community.
Yeah.
You know, it's really as simple as that. And there's no way that, like, our occupying force, like I said, there's no way a military that's designed to do this. It's designed to identify a target and take the target down. Like, you go through that muscle memory training, like, for 2 weeks, you know, like, so your body remembers physically how to do that. To then say, like, oh, well, you get a month or a week of training to do what people have been doing for years. I mean, it's just really interesting. You have 24-year-olds, officers that have just got out of college that are in charge of these reconstruction teams, and they have no on-the-ground experience, and there's still this extremely amount of paternalistic attitude to the Afghan people. And I think we have a lot to learn, instead of, you know, coming in there with, you know, a Western elitism and bringing that dominance through, not only through our use of force, but also through our use of resources and how we distribute resources. Okay,
we could do 2 shows. You could have been my only guest today.
Well, I appreciate that.
Well, it's very moving to those of us who care about what our country does in our name. This is just a really hard hour, and to hear your evidence and, you know, your experience, it just, I apologize, Aaron, for what you know, you've gone through.
Before you,
U.S. Labor Against the War trip. Yeah. Let's cover that, because I don't want you to leave without talking about what's being done that might be a help down the road.
Yeah, I'll tell you really quickly.
You're listening to Live from the Heartland. This is Chicago Sound Alliance, 88.7 WLUW, and my guest is Aaron Hughes of Iraq Veterans Against the War.
Thank you, and thank you for having me on. So like you were saying, in 2009, I had heard about the this conference that's being organized by the unions in Iraq to bring together all the union federations for the first time and articulate what they wanted out of their new country, this growing redevelopment of their homeland. And I was really inspired hearing about this and hearing from this constituency that hasn't been heard from, and I know is specifically targeted and oppressed. And in fact, just last week, the Ministry of Electricity and Oil and Power, they went in and raided these union halls, and these unions have no rights, even though they're one of the secular and democratic forces within the country and are extremely important to the development of the communities, and like working folks that just want their community's power to be on and want to go to work. So I was given the pleasure, the honor to attend this conference. U.S. Labor Against the War, we asked them, they asked the Iraqis if we could attend. The Iraqis extended an invitation to Iraq Veterans Against the War. I went over there with a fellow veteran named T.J. Buonamo, and You know, it was just humbling. It was humbling to go over there and just listen to the stories of the electrical workers and the fact that the U.S. military had occupied their power plant, and they went on a massive strike and demonstration and nonviolent direct action, and they forced the U.S. military out of their power plant so they could keep the power on for their communities. They said, we've seen this happen in other communities. We've seen how the power plants have been falling apart and destroyed, and we're not going to let it happen here. And people that care that deeply about your community, and then, you know, for us to then oppress them and target them and consider them a problem within the development of a country, I think is really problematic. And the new constitution, they're signers of the International Labor Organization. They have labor rights, but the provisional government underneath Paul Bremer carried over Saddam's laws, which is a dictator's laws, and
isn't that counterintuitive?
And said that these labor force does not have rights. They don't have the right to organize. It's against the law. They seized their assets. They targeted union leaders, and even to this day, they're still targeting union leaders for the work that they're doing, and they're holding strong. And I think we have a lot to do to empower them. But I was hearing these stories, and it was just overwhelmingly humbling because, you know, we talk about struggle here, and there's nothing compared to what they're going through and how they fight there. And they still provided an opportunity for my brother TJ and myself to speak. And you know, before I started talking about Iraq Veterans Against the War, I said, you know, I had to apologize. And so what I said was, you know, I was here in your country oppressing your people, pointing my weapon at your families and at your communities, and for that I'm sorry. But I'm not here to be forgiven. I'm here to take responsibility. And I think that that's the American people's challenge, is how are we going to take responsibility for what we've done to another country, families, communities, kids? How are we going to stand up and take responsibility of that and end it, one, and two, take responsibility for it? We still haven't taken responsibility for the damages we've done in Vietnam.
Right.